The blood-soaked cotton pressed against her split lip did little to stem the flow as Olivia Blackett stumbled through the endless expanse of the Arizona desert. The relentless June sun of 1876 beat down mercilessly upon her battered body, each step sending shards of pain through her bruised ribs. 3 days had passed since she'd fled Tucson in the dead of night, her husband's threats still ringing in her ears, promising death if she ever dared leave. Olivia's parched throat constricted as she forced herself forward, her once fine blue dress now torn and dust-covered, her boots worn through at the soles. 24 years old and certain she was walking to her grave, she decided that dying free in the desert was preferable to another day under Theodore Blackett's cruel hand. "Just keep moving," she whispered to herself, the words barely audible over the hot wind. "One more step." But her body, deprived of water for nearly a day, finally betrayed her. As the horizon blurred and tilted, Olivia collapsed onto the burning sand, consciousness slipping away like water through cupped hands. She dreamed of rain. Cool, blessed rain on her face. When awareness slowly returned, Olivia realized the wetness on her cheeks was real, a dampened cloth being gently pressed to her forehead. "There you are," a deep voice said softly. "Thought we might be losing you." Olivia's eyes flew open as panic surged through her. She scrambled backward, ignoring the protest of her battered body until her back hit something solid. A wooden wall. "Easy now," the man said, raising his hands. "You're safe here." Through the haze of fear, Olivia took in her surroundings. She lay on a simple cot in a small cabin, sunlight streaming through a window. The man before her was tall and lean, with weathered skin that spoke of years under the sun. Beneath a wide-brimmed hat, intelligent green eyes regarded her with concern. "Where am I?" She croaked, her voice rough as sandpaper. "My place, about 15 miles northeast of Prescott." He offered a tin cup of water. "Found you collapsed out on the flats yesterday evening. My name's Ethan Grayson." Olivia hesitated before accepting the water, drinking slowly despite her desperate thirst. "Thank you," she managed after a moment, remembering her manners even as her mind raced with plans of escape, if Theodore tracked her here. "You're welcome to rest as long as you need," Ethan said, moving to a small stove where a pot simmered. "Stew's almost ready. Reckon you could use some food." "I can't stay," Olivia blurted, though her body screamed for rest. "I need to keep moving." Ethan turned, studying her with a gaze that seemed to see straight through her pretenses. His eyes lingered on her bruised cheekbone, her split lip. "Madam," he said carefully, "nobody comes this far into the desert alone unless they're running from something." He filled a bowl with stew. "Or someone." Tears pricked at Olivia's eyes, but she blinked them back. She hadn't cried in front of Theodore in over a year. She wouldn't cry in front of this stranger. "I'll be gone by morning," she promised. "And go where?" Ethan asked gently, placing the bowl beside her. "Next town's 3 days' ride. You've got no horse, no supplies, and forgive my forwardness, but you're in no condition to make that journey." The truth of his words hit her like a physical blow. She had nowhere to go, no plan beyond escape. "I can't." Her voice broke. "He'll kill me if he finds me." "Your husband?" Olivia nodded, her eyes fixed on the rough-hewn floorboards. Ethan settled into a chair across from her. "Well then," he said simply, "we'll just have to make sure he doesn't find you." For the first time in years, Olivia felt the faintest flicker of hope. It was dangerous, that feeling. Hope had betrayed her before. "Why would you help me?" she asked suspiciously. "You don't know me." "I know enough," Ethan replied. "Eat your stew, rest. We can figure out the rest tomorrow." That night, Olivia slept fitfully on the cot while Ethan took up position in a chair by the door, rifle across his lap. Each time she startled awake, she found him there, steady and watchful. By morning, her fever had broken, and with it came clarity. She couldn't stay. This man, kind as he seemed, had already risked enough harboring her for one night. Ethan was outside when she emerged from the cabin, determined to announce her departure. She found him by a corral where several horses grazed, his attention focused on mending a length of fence. "Mr. Grayson," she called. He turned, tipping his hat. "Morning, how are you feeling?" "Better, thank you." The sun caught his profile, highlighting strong features softened by what appeared to be a naturally gentle disposition. I wanted to thank you properly for your kindness, but I need to be on my way. Ethan set down his tools. Had a feeling you'd say that. Mind sitting a spell first? He gestured to a rough bench beside the corral. Had some thoughts I wanted to share if you're willing to hear them. Reluctantly, Olivia joined him, maintaining a careful distance between them. I've got a proposition, Ethan said after a moment. I need help around this place. It's too much for one man, especially with roundup season coming. I need someone to cook, tend the garden, help with the horses. I can offer room and board plus a small wage. Olivia stared at him. You're offering me a job if you want it. You don't know anything about me. I know you're running from trouble not of your making. I know you've got courage, making it as far as you did in the desert. His eyes met hers directly, and I know a decent person when I meet one. The offer was tempting, dangerously so. My husband will search for me. This place is off the main trails. Few folks even know it exists. Why? She demanded suddenly. Why would you risk harboring a fugitive wife? Something dark passed over Ethan's face. My sister was married to a man who treated her poorly. She didn't make it out. He looked away. I wasn't there to help her, but I'm here now and I can help you. Olivia felt the weight of his words. This wasn't charity, it was atonement. I don't know how to repay such kindness. Work hard, that's payment enough. He stood. What do you say? What choice did she have? Death in the desert or a chance at safety, however temporary, I accept, she said quietly. Thank you, Mr. Grayson. Ethan, he corrected with a small smile. Folks who share a roof don't stand on formalities out here. The first weeks passed in a cautious dance of adjustment. Olivia learned the rhythms of the ranch, a modest operation with 30 head of cattle, 6 horses, a vegetable garden, and a small orchard. Ethan kept to himself most days, working from dawn to dusk, but his quiet presence brought unexpected comfort. Their evenings fell into routine. Shared meals followed by quiet hours where Ethan whittled or read by lamplight while Olivia mended clothes or paged through the small collection of books he kept. Where did you learn to cook like this? He asked one evening over a rabbit stew she'd prepared. Olivia tensed briefly at the personal question. She'd volunteered little about her past, and Ethan hadn't pried. My grandmother taught me, she finally answered. She raised me after my parents died. She taught you well. A ghost of a smile touched Olivia's lips. She believed a woman should know how to run a household, but also how to survive without a man if necessary. Her smile faded. I disappointed her when I married Theodore. How so? She warned me about him, said his eyes were too cold. Olivia stared into her bowl. I should have listened. Ethan nodded but didn't press further. Instead, he rose and retrieved something from a shelf, a small wooden chess set. Do you play? He asked. Olivia shook her head. I could teach you, helps pass the evenings, and so he did. Chess became their nightly ritual, a neutral ground where conversation could unfold naturally. Through these quiet games, Olivia gradually revealed pieces of herself, her childhood in Missouri, her journey west with her grandmother after the war, her dreams of becoming a schoolteacher before Theodore had convinced her to marry. In turn, Ethan shared his own past, raised on a farm in Kansas, joining a cattle drive at 17, fighting briefly in the war before returning west to make his own way. He'd worked for 5 years to save enough for this land, building everything with his own hands. No wife. Olivia asked one night, then immediately regretted the forwardness. Never found the right woman, Ethan replied simply, or perhaps never stayed in one place long enough to look properly. As July gave way to August, Olivia's body healed. The bruises faded, her split lip mended, and the constant fear that had been her companion began to recede. She took to rising before dawn to watch the sunrise paint the desert in gold and crimson, a beauty she'd never appreciated while living in town. One morning, Ethan found her thus, standing outside the cabin with her arms wrapped around herself. It's something, isn't it? He said quietly, coming to stand beside her. Never gets old. It's beautiful, she agreed. I never knew the desert could be so alive. They stood in companionable silence until Ethan cleared his throat. I need to ride into Prescott today for supplies. Should be back by nightfall. Olivia nodded, fighting the immediate surge of panic at the thought of being left alone. I'll be fine, she said, more to convince herself than him. I know you will, he hesitated. I'm leaving my spare pistol on the shelf by the door, just in case. The concern in his eyes warmed something inside her. Thank you. After he'd gone, the cabin felt eerily quiet. Olivia threw herself into chores, harvesting vegetables from the garden, churning butter, mending a tear in one of Ethan's shirts. Anything to keep her mind occupied. By mid-afternoon, dark clouds had gathered on the horizon. A summer storm was brewing, and Olivia found herself checking the trail repeatedly for signs of Ethan's return. When the first fat raindrops began to fall, she hurried to bring in the laundry from the line. The wind picked up, driving the rain sideways as thunder cracked overhead. Rushing back to the cabin, Olivia nearly collided with a figure on the porch. Her heart stopped. Not Ethan. A stranger stood there, dripping wet and grinning. "Well, ain't this a surprise," he drawled. "Didn't know old Grayson had himself a woman." Olivia took a step back, her mind racing. The pistol was inside on the shelf. "Mr. Grayson will be back any minute," she lied, forcing steadiness into her voice. "Can I help you with something?" The man's eyes traveled over her in a way that made her skin crawl. "Just looking for shelter from the storm." "Neighborly thing would be to invite me in." "I'm afraid I can't do that." Olivia stood her ground, though her heart hammered. "Mr. Grayson doesn't welcome unexpected visitors." The man's smile hardened. "Ain't very hospitable." He took a step toward her. "What's your name, pretty lady?" Before Olivia could respond, hoofbeats sounded through the rain. Relief flooded through her as Ethan appeared, riding hard toward the cabin. The stranger turned, his posture changing subtly. "Farley," Ethan acknowledged coldly as he dismounted. "Didn't expect to see you this far from town." "Got caught in the storm," the man, Farley, replied with forced casualness. "Was just asking the lady if I might wait it out here," and she declined. Ethan moved to stand beside Olivia. "Storm's passing east, you'd best be on your way." A tense moment passed before Farley shrugged. "Always the loner, eh, Grayson?" He tipped his hat mockingly toward Olivia. "Madam, sorry to have troubled you." They watched in silence as he mounted his horse and rode away through the diminishing rain. "Are you all right?" Ethan asked once Farley was out of sight. Olivia nodded, though she was shaking. "Who was that?" "Sam Farley, works for the Chandler outfit north of here." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Bad news, likes to drink and cause trouble in town. He seemed to know you. We've had run-ins." Ethan didn't elaborate. "Come on, let's get inside." That night, Olivia couldn't sleep. The encounter with Farley had shaken her more than she wanted to admit, reminding her how vulnerable she truly was, how vulnerable they both were, isolated out here. The next morning, she found Ethan checking his rifle before heading out to the pasture. "I should leave," she announced abruptly. Ethan looked up, surprise evident on his face. "Because of Farley, because I'm putting you in danger. If Theodore finds me here, Olivia." It was the first time he'd used her given name, and it stopped her mid-sentence. "I can handle myself." "And Farley, you don't understand what Theodore is capable of." Ethan set the rifle down. "Then tell me." The words poured out of her, then how Theodore had courted her with charm and promises, how the first blow had come just weeks after their wedding, how the abuse had escalated over their 3 years of marriage, how he'd threatened to hunt her down if she ever left. "He's respected in Tucson," she finished bitterly. "A businessman with connections, nobody would believe me." Ethan listened without interruption, his face growing darker with each revelation. When she finished, he crossed the room and knelt before her chair. "I believe you," he said simply. "And I'm not afraid of him." His conviction should have been comforting. Instead, it terrified her. "You should be." "Olivia." He took her hands gently in his own calloused ones. "I won't force you to stay if you truly believe leaving is safer, but know this: if you stay, I will protect you. With my life if necessary." The fierce certainty in his eyes made her breath catch. In that moment, she realized something had shifted between them, something dangerous and wonderful all at once. "I don't want anyone else hurt because of me," she whispered. "That's not your choice to make," Ethan replied softly. "It's mine." A week passed with no sign of trouble. The incident with Farley faded somewhat in Olivia's mind as daily routines resumed. September brought slightly cooler temperatures, making work around the ranch more bearable. One afternoon, Ethan found her attempting to repair a broken fence post near the garden. "Here, let me help with that," he offered, taking the hammer from her hands. Their fingers brushed, sending an unexpected warmth through her. "I could have managed," she protested, though she was grateful for the assistance. Ethan smiled. "I know you could, but 4 hands work faster than 2. Working side by side, they finished the repair quickly. As they gathered the tools, Ethan cleared his throat. "I've been thinking," he began. "Your experience with the horses has been impressive. You have a natural way with them." Olivia felt herself flush with pleasure at the compliment. "I've always loved horses. My grandmother kept 2 old mares. I thought perhaps—" He hesitated. "Perhaps you might like to have one of your own." "For riding, I mean." Surprise rendered her momentarily speechless. "My own horse, the bay mare," Ethan explained. "She's gentle but spirited, suited to someone with your temperament." "I couldn't possibly accept. It's not charity," he interrupted, correctly reading her hesitation. "It's practical. You should have a means of transportation. For emergencies or escape," Olivia thought, understanding his unspoken meaning. "Thank you," she said sincerely. "I'd be honored." Later that afternoon, Ethan led the bay mare Willow, he called her, from the corral. He helped Olivia mount, his hands steady at her waist. The simple contact sent a flutter through her stomach that had nothing to do with nervousness about riding. "Let's start with the basics," Ethan suggested, leading Willow in a slow circle, "though I suspect you already know more than you let on." Olivia smiled down at him. "Perhaps a little." By the time the sun began to set, she was cantering confidently around the pasture, her hair coming loose from its pins, her cheeks flushed with exhilaration. Ethan watched from the fence, a look of undisguised admiration on his face. "You're a natural," he called as she brought Willow to a halt beside him. Breathless and happy, Olivia dismounted without assistance. "That was wonderful. I'd forgotten how freeing it feels." "Freedom looks good on you," Ethan said quietly. Their eyes met, and for a moment, Olivia felt as though the ground beneath her had shifted. Something was growing between them, something she both craved and feared. "I should start dinner," she said quickly, breaking the spell. Ethan nodded, taking Willow's reins. "I'll see to Willow." That night, Olivia lay awake long after retiring to her small room, originally a storage space that Ethan had converted for her use. Her mind replayed the day's events, lingering on the moment when their eyes had met. The warmth in his gaze had been unmistakable. She pressed her hands to her burning cheeks. This was dangerous territory. She was still a married woman, legally bound to a monster. And Ethan, kind, honorable Ethan, deserved better than the complications she brought with her, yet she couldn't deny the feelings taking root in her heart. In the quiet sanctuary he'd provided, something new was blossoming, something she'd never truly experienced with Theodore. Not affection born of desperation or gratitude, but genuine admiration. Respect, perhaps even, no, she wouldn't name it. Naming it would make it real, and reality had a way of destroying beautiful things. As autumn deepened, the days grew shorter. Ethan worked from sunrise to sunset, preparing for winter, cutting firewood, making repairs to the cabin and barn, smoking meat to preserve it. Olivia threw herself into harvesting the garden's final offerings, canning vegetables and fruits, drying herbs. One evening in early October, a crisp chill settled over the land. After dinner, Ethan built up the fire in the hearth while Olivia cleared away the dishes. "I need to ride to Prescott tomorrow," he announced. "Winter supplies, you're welcome to come along if you'd like." Olivia froze, a plate halfway to the shelf. "To town, it's not Tucson," Ethan reminded her gently. "No one there would know you." The prospect was both tempting and terrifying. She hadn't left the ranch since arriving nearly 4 months ago. "I don't have anything suitable to wear," she said, glancing down at her mended dress. "I thought of that." Ethan disappeared into his room, returning with a package wrapped in brown paper. "Got this last time I was in town. Shopkeeper's wife helped me with the sizing." Stunned, Olivia accepted the package. Inside lay a simple but beautiful dress of deep blue cotton, a matching bonnet, and a warm shawl. "Ethan." She ran her fingers over the fabric, emotion tightening her throat. "This is too much." "It's nothing fancy," he said, looking somewhat embarrassed. "Just practical things for cooler weather." "It's perfect," she whispered. The thoughtfulness of the gesture moved her deeply. "Thank you." Their eyes met across the room, and the atmosphere between them changed, charged with unspoken feelings. "Well," Ethan said gruffly, breaking the silence, Best get some rest if we're riding tomorrow. Prescott bustled with activity when they arrived the next day, the main street lined with wagons and horses as people prepared for the coming winter. Olivia felt exposed despite the bonnet that partially concealed her face, but Ethan's steady presence beside her provided courage. "We'll start at the general store," he suggested, offering his arm. The simple gesture, being escorted openly, respectfully made Olivia's heart ache with something between joy and sorrow. This was how it should have been with Theodore. This was what she'd once dreamed marriage would be. Inside the store, Ethan introduced her simply as Miss Olivia, offering no explanation for her presence. The shopkeeper, a jovial man named Parker, asked no questions. "Mrs. Parker picked that dress," he commented, nodding approvingly. "Suits you perfectly." "Please thank her for me," Olivia replied, finding her voice. "It's lovely." As Ethan discussed his supply order with Parker, Olivia wandered the store, running her fingers over bolts of fabric, examining tins of coffee and sugar, breathing in the familiar sense of a mercantile. It felt strange being among people again after months of isolation. A display of books caught her attention, a luxury she'd always cherished. She was examining a volume of poetry when a voice spoke beside her. "Are you new to Prescott, madam?" Olivia turned to find a gray-haired woman smiling kindly at her. "Just visiting," she replied cautiously. "I'm Martha Wilson. My husband and I run the post office." The woman extended her hand. "I don't believe I've seen you before." "Olivia." She shook the offered hand, omitting her surname. "I'm staying at Mr. Grayson's ranch." Recognition dawned on Martha's face. "Ethan Grayson, well, that's a surprise. He usually keeps to himself." Before Olivia could respond, Ethan appeared at her side. "Mrs. Wilson," he greeted the older woman. "Good to see you." "Likewise, Mr. Grayson." Martha's eyes twinkled with unmistakable curiosity. "I was just getting acquainted with your friend." "Olivia helps me with the ranch," Ethan explained, his tone casual but firm. Martha nodded, though her expression suggested she was drawing her own conclusions. "Well, you must both come to dinner sometime. Frank and I don't get many visitors out our way." "That's kind of you," Ethan replied noncommittally. "We should finish our errands before the weather turns." Outside, Olivia released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. She seemed nice. "The Wilsons are good people," Ethan agreed, leading her toward the feed store. "But in small towns, talk spreads faster than wildfire. She thinks I'm your—" Olivia couldn't quite say the word. "People will think what they want," Ethan said simply. "Does it bother you, did it?" Olivia considered the question. Once, the implication of impropriety would have mortified her. Now, after all she'd endured, the opinions of strangers seemed trivial by comparison. "No," she decided. "It doesn't." The corners of Ethan's mouth lifted slightly. "Good, now let's get those supplies." They completed their errands efficiently, adding sacks of flour and sugar, coffee, fabric, ammunition, and various tools to their purchases. At Ethan's insistence, Olivia selected a few personal items as well, a hairbrush, some ribbons, and the book of poetry she'd been admiring. Their last stop was the saloon, where Ethan needed to speak with someone about a potential cattle sale. Olivia waited outside, content to observe the town's activities from a bench. She was so absorbed in watching a group of children playing nearby that she didn't immediately notice the man approaching until he spoke. "Well now, if it isn't Grayson's mysterious lady." Olivia tensed, recognizing Sam Farley's voice instantly. She stood, preparing to walk away, but he blocked her path. "No need to rush off," he said, his smile not reaching his eyes, "just making friendly conversation." "Excuse me," Olivia said firmly, attempting to step around him. Farley moved again to intercept her. "Strange thing," he mused. "You look mighty familiar. Have we met before? Perhaps in Tucson?" Ice flooded Olivia's veins. "You're mistaken." "Am I?" Farley leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Because there's a fella down there offering a substantial reward for information about his missing wife." "Description matches you something fierce." Terror constricted Olivia's throat. Theodore was looking for her, had put a price on her head. "I don't know what you're talking about," she managed. "No," Farley's grin widened. "Maybe I should ride back down to Tucson and see if everything all right here." Ethan's voice cut through the conversation as he emerged from the saloon, his expression hardening as he took in the scene. "Just catching up with the lady," Farley said, stepping back. "Turns out we might have mutual acquaintances." Ethan's hand moved to rest casually near his holstered pistol. "Olivia, are you ready to head back?" She nodded, moving quickly to his side. Farley watched them with calculating eyes. "You two enjoy your evening now. I expect we'll be seeing each other again real soon." The threat hung in the air between them. "Let's go," Ethan said quietly, leading Olivia toward where their horses were hitched. They rode in tense silence until Prescott disappeared behind them. Finally, in a secluded stretch of trail, Ethan drew his horse alongside Willow. "What happened?" he asked. Olivia's hands trembled on the reins. "He knows," she whispered, "or suspects. He mentioned Theodore is offering a reward for information about me." Ethan's expression darkened. "Did he threaten you?" "Not directly, but he's going to tell Theodore where I am. I know it." Panic rose in her chest. "I have to leave tonight if Theodore comes, Olivia." Ethan's voice was steady, anchoring her. "Farley's a coward and an opportunist. He was testing you, seeing how you'd react." "And now he knows," she countered. "I should never have come to town. Listen to me." Ethan reached across the space between them, his hand covering hers. "We knew this day might come, but I made you a promise, and I intend to keep it." The warmth of his touch steadied her. "What do we do?" "We prepare," he said simply, "and we don't run." That night, after their return to the ranch, Ethan showed Olivia a hidden cellar beneath the cabin floor, a small space stocked with emergency provisions. "If trouble comes and I'm not here," he instructed, "you hide. There's a pistol, ammunition, water, and food enough for several days." The practicality of his preparations both reassured and terrified her. "And if you are here," Ethan's expression was grim, "then we face it together." The next morning, Olivia woke to find Ethan already gone from the cabin, his bedroll empty. Concerned, she dressed quickly and stepped outside. She found him by the corral, saddling his horse. "You're leaving?" she asked, unable to hide the alarm in her voice. "Just for the day," Ethan assured her. "Need to check on something?" "Farley," he nodded. "I want to know if he's headed south." The thought of Ethan confronting Farley made her stomach clench with fear. "Please don't do anything reckless." His expression softened. "I'm just going to observe." "Nothing more," he hesitated. "But if I'm not back by nightfall, use the cellar. Don't wait for me." Impulsively, Olivia stepped forward and laid her hand against his cheek. "Be careful." Surprise flickered across Ethan's face, followed by something deeper. He covered her hand with his own. "I will." The hours of his absence stretched interminably. Olivia tried to occupy herself with chores, but anxiety kept her returning to the window, watching the trail for signs of his return. When afternoon faded into evening with no sign of Ethan, fear took root in her chest. She paced the cabin, pistol tucked into her skirt pocket, jumping at every sound. The moon had risen high when she finally heard hoofbeats approaching. She extinguished the lamp and peered through the window, relief flooding through her at the familiar silhouette of Ethan dismounting. She flung open the door. "Thank God." Ethan looked exhausted but managed a tired smile. "Told you I'd be back." Inside, he accepted the coffee she pressed into his hands. "Farley left town this morning," he reported, "but he headed north, not south." "You're certain?" Followed his trail myself. Ethan rubbed his face wearily. "Doesn't mean he won't double back later, but for now we have time." Some of the tension eased from Olivia's shoulders. "What do we do with that time?" "Live," Ethan said simply, "and prepare." In the weeks that followed, preparation became their focus. Ethan taught Olivia to shoot with greater accuracy, to recognize approaching riders by the sound of their horses, to navigate the surrounding terrain. They established signals and contingency plans. Yet amid these somber preparations, life continued. October's chill deepened into November's frost. They celebrated Thanksgiving with a special meal, a wild turkey Ethan had shot, vegetables from their preserved stores, and a pie Olivia baked from dried apples. As they ate by candlelight, Olivia was struck by the domesticity of the scene, the comfortable silence between them, the shared glances, the way Ethan smiled when she caught his eye. This feeling of home, of belonging, was something she'd never expected to find again. "What are you thinking about?" Ethan asked, noticing her contemplation. That I'm thankful, she replied honestly. For this place, for safety. She hesitated. For you, the candlelight caught the warmth in his eyes. I'm thankful too, Olivia, more than I can say. That night, as they sat by the fire, the customary chessboard between them, Olivia found herself distracted. Each time Ethan's fingers moved a piece, she found herself watching his hands, strong, capable hands that had never been raised in anger, only in protection and care. Your move, Ethan prompted gently. Olivia blinked, realizing she'd been staring. Sorry, she moved her bishop without much thought. Ethan captured it immediately. Careless, he teased. You usually plan 3 moves ahead. I'm distracted tonight, something troubling you. Yes, she wanted to say, I'm falling in love with you and I don't know what to do about it. Instead, she said, just thinking about the future. Ethan's expression turned serious. What about it? I can't stay here forever, she said, giving voice to the thought that had been troubling her. Living in fear, looking over my shoulder, it's no kind of life. No, he agreed quietly, it isn't. But I don't see a way out. As long as Theodore lives, I'll never truly be free. Ethan was silent for a long moment, considering her words. There might be another way, he finally said. A legal way. Divorce. Olivia shook her head bitterly. Theodore would never agree, and even if he did, the courts rarely side with wives. Not divorce, Ethan clarified. Annulment on grounds of cruelty. Hope flickered briefly before reality doused it. I'd need to appear in court. Theodore would be there. Not necessarily. Ethan leaned forward. I have a friend in Prescott, a lawyer, James Holloway. He might be able to help. Why would he risk helping a stranger? Because I'd ask him to. The simplicity of Ethan's response caught her off guard. He owes me a favor. Olivia considered the possibility. Freedom, true, legal freedom seemed an impossible dream. Think about it, Ethan suggested, returning his attention to the chessboard. No need to decide tonight. But that night, as Olivia lay in bed, the decision crystallized in her mind. She was tired of living in fear. Tired of letting Theodore control her life from hundreds of miles away. If there was even a chance at legal freedom, she had to take it. The next morning, she announced her decision to Ethan over breakfast. I want to speak with your lawyer friend, she said firmly. I want to try for the annulment. Ethan nodded, approval in his eyes. I'll arrange a meeting. Holloway sometimes comes to Jackson, the settlement about 30 miles east of here. Smaller than Prescott, less chance of drawing attention. 2 days later, they rode together to Jackson, a dusty collection of buildings serving the surrounding ranches. The journey took most of the day, and they arrived as the sun was setting. We'll stay at the hotel tonight, Ethan explained as they stabled their horses. Meet with Holloway in the morning. The hotel was modest but clean, with a small dining room where a few locals gathered for supper. Ethan secured 2 rooms and escorted Olivia upstairs. Rest well, he said, pausing outside her door. Tomorrow might be difficult. Olivia nodded, suddenly anxious about what lay ahead. Ethan, she said impulsively, catching his arm as he turned to go. Thank you for everything. His eyes softened. You don't need to thank me, Olivia. Yes, I do, she held his gaze. You saved my life in more ways than one. For a moment, it seemed he might say more. Instead, he gently squeezed her hand before releasing it. Good night. The following morning, they met James Holloway in a private room at the hotel. The lawyer was younger than Olivia had expected, with intelligent eyes and a forthright manner. Ethan explained your situation, Holloway said after introductions were made. I'll be direct, Mrs. Blackett. What you're seeking won't be easy, I understand. You'll need to provide details of the abuse, Holloway continued. Dates, incidents, witnesses if possible. The prospect of recounting those painful memories made Olivia's stomach clench, but she nodded resolutely. For the next 2 hours, she relived her marriage in excruciating detail, each beating, each humiliation, each threat. Ethan remained silent throughout her testimony, but she could feel the tension radiating from him. When she finished, Holloway's expression was grave. This will help. The more specific the petition, the stronger the case. What are her chances? Ethan asked. Better than most, Holloway replied. The judge in Prescott, Judge Morrison, is known to be sympathetic in cases of proven cruelty. He turned to Olivia. But there's a risk. If your husband contests the petition, you may need to appear in court. I understand the risk, she said steadily. I want to proceed, Holloway nodded. Then I'll prepare the papers. It will take several weeks. As they prepared to leave, Holloway pulled Ethan aside for a private word. Olivia couldn't hear what was said, but when Ethan rejoined her, his expression was troubled. "What is it?" she asked as they walked toward the stables. "Nothing important," Ethan replied, though his tone suggested otherwise. "Holloway will send word when the papers are ready." The ride back to the ranch was quieter than their journey to town. Olivia found herself watching Ethan, trying to decipher the worry that had settled over him. "You're not telling me something," she finally said as they neared home. Ethan sighed. "Holloway heard rumors. Your husband has been making inquiries in towns along the stage routes, showing your photograph." Cold fear washed through her. "He's getting closer." "It's just rumor," Ethan cautioned. "But yes, we should be vigilant." That night, neither of them slept well. Olivia lay awake, listening to Ethan's restless movements in the main room. Eventually, she rose and opened her door. Ethan sat by the dying fire, a glass of whiskey in hand. He looked up at her approach, couldn't sleep. She asked softly, "Too much on my mind?" He gestured to the chair opposite him. "You too, it seems." Olivia settled into the offered seat, drawing her shawl tighter around her nightdress. "I've been thinking about what happens after, if the annulment is granted." She stared into the embers. "I'll need to build a new life somewhere." Ethan was quiet for a long moment. "You could stay here," he finally said, his voice low, "if you wanted to." The offer hung between them, weighted with unspoken meaning. "As your housekeeper?" Olivia asked, needing clarity. Ethan set down his glass, meeting her gaze directly. "No, Olivia, not as my housekeeper." Her heart thundered in her chest. "Then as what?" "As whatever you want to be." His voice was steady, but she could see vulnerability in his eyes. "I care for you, more than I should, perhaps. More than I intended to." The admission, so simply stated, made her breath catch. "I know the timing is wrong," Ethan continued. "I know you need freedom, not another man making claims on your life, but I wanted you to know there's a place for you here, always." Tears pricked at Olivia's eyes. "Ethan," a sound outside interrupted her, the distant but unmistakable approach of horses. They both froze, listening, multiple riders moving fast. "Get dressed," Ethan ordered quietly, already reaching for his rifle. "Quickly." Olivia hurried to her room, hands shaking as she pulled on clothes. When she emerged, Ethan was by the window, peering out into the moonlit night. "4 riders," he reported grimly. "Coming up the main trail." Terror and determination warred within her. "Theodore?" "Can't tell yet." Ethan checked his pistol, then handed her one as well. "Remember the cellar." "I'm not hiding while you face them alone," she protested. Before he could argue, the sound of approaching horses grew louder. Ethan moved to the door, rifle ready. "Stay behind me," he instructed, his voice leaving no room for debate. The riders drew to a halt outside. In the tense silence that followed, a voice called out, one that sent ice through Olivia's veins. "I know you're in there, Olivia. Come out now, and no one needs to get hurt. Theodore." After all these months, he'd found her. "It's over, Mrs. Blackett." Another voice added, Farley's. "Your husband just wants to talk." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Go to the cellar," he whispered. "Now." "No," Olivia said, finding courage she didn't know she possessed. "This ends tonight." Before Ethan could stop her, she moved to the window. In the moonlight, she could see them clearly: Theodore, Farley, and 2 men she didn't recognize, all armed. "You have 1 minute to send her out, Grayson," Theodore shouted. "Or we're coming in." Olivia turned to Ethan, her decision made. "I need to face him." "Olivia, no, trust me," she whispered fiercely. "I'm not the same woman who fled into the desert. I'm not afraid anymore." The determination in her eyes must have convinced him. Ethan nodded reluctantly. "I'll be right beside you." Together, they stepped onto the porch. Theodore's face contorted with rage when he saw them standing side by side. "So it's true," he spat. "You've been living in sin with this rancher." "What I've been doing is living free of your cruelty," Olivia replied, her voice surprisingly steady. "Go home, Theodore. There's nothing for you here." Theodore's laugh was ugly. "You're my wife, my property. You're coming home with me tonight." "She's not going anywhere she doesn't want to go," Ethan stated calmly, though Olivia could feel the tension in his body. "This doesn't concern you, Grayson." Theodore's hand moved to his holstered pistol. "Step aside." "I'm not your wife anymore, Theodore," Olivia said. "I've filed for annulment on grounds of cruelty. The papers are being prepared as we speak." Theodore's expression darkened. "You lying whore, it's true," Ethan cut in. "Legal proceedings have begun. You can contest it in court if you wish, but you can't force her to return with you." For a moment, doubt flickered across Theodore's face, then his features hardened. "We'll see about that." He drew his pistol. "Last chance, Olivia, come here now." Ethan stepped slightly forward, shielding her. "Lower your weapon, Blackett." Time seemed to slow as Theodore raised his pistol. Olivia saw his intention in his eyes a split second before he fired. "No," she cried, pushing Ethan sideways. The shot cracked through the night. Ethan grunted in pain as the bullet grazed his shoulder, but his own rifle was already up. He fired once, hitting Theodore squarely in the chest. Chaos erupted. Farley and one of the other men opened fire as Theodore crumpled to the ground. Ethan pushed Olivia through the doorway, returning fire from the threshold. One of Theodore's companions fell from his horse. The other, seeing the odds turn, wheeled his mount and fled into the darkness. Farley hesitated only a moment before following suit. In the sudden silence, Olivia rushed to Ethan's side. "You're hurt." "Just a graze," he assured her, though blood darkened his shirt sleeve. "Are you all right?" She nodded, trembling with the aftermath of violence. Outside, Theodore lay motionless in the dirt. "Is he?" She couldn't finish the question. Ethan checked cautiously. "He's dead," he confirmed quietly. Relief and shock washed through Olivia in equal measure. Theodore was gone. The threat that had haunted her for months was eliminated in an instant. "It was self-defense," Ethan said, reading her expression. "He fired first. There are witnesses." "Farley and his friend," Olivia asked bitterly. "They'll say whatever suits them." "Maybe." Ethan winced as she helped him to a chair. "But the sheriff in Prescott knows Theodore's reputation. And Holloway has your testimony about the abuse." As the adrenaline faded, the reality of the situation began to sink in. Olivia's hands shook as she gathered supplies to tend Ethan's wound. "We need to ride to Prescott," Ethan said as she cleaned the bullet graze. "Report what happened before Farley spreads his version." "You're in no condition to travel," she protested. "By morning I will be." His eyes met hers. "This isn't over yet, Olivia, but we'll face it together." The journey to Prescott the next day was grim and exhausting. They left Theodore's body and that of his companion covered on the porch, unable to bury them properly before seeking the sheriff. Sheriff Miller was a grizzled veteran with shrewd eyes and a reputation for fairness. He listened to their account without interruption, taking careful notes. "Blackett's made enemies in Tucson," he commented when they finished. "Not surprised he came to a bad end." "What happens now?" Olivia asked anxiously. "I'll send deputies to retrieve the bodies. There'll be an inquest, but from what you've told me, it's clear-cut self-defense." Miller eyed them both. "You'll need to stay in town until it's concluded." James Holloway arranged lodging for them and represented Ethan during the formal inquest 3 days later. As expected, Farley attempted to paint Theodore as the victim, claiming Ethan had fired first. But character witnesses from Tucson testified about Theodore's violent reputation. The bullet graze on Ethan's shoulder corroborated their account that Theodore had fired first. And most damning of all were the documented bruises and injuries Olivia had sustained during her marriage, detailed in Holloway's annulment petition. After deliberating for less than an hour, the judge ruled Theodore's death justifiable homicide. With his death, the annulment petition became moot. Olivia was legally a widow, free of her marriage bonds. As they left the courthouse, winter sunlight breaking through clouds overhead, Olivia felt a weight lift from her shoulders. For the first time in years, she could breathe freely. "Plan for a future, hope. It's over," she said wonderingly as they walked through Prescott's main street. "Yes," Ethan agreed, his hand finding hers. "It's over." That evening, they sat before the fire in their lodging house, the events of the past days settling around them like fallen leaves. "What will you do now?" Ethan asked quietly. Olivia studied his face, the face of the man who had found her dying in the desert, who had given her shelter, protection, and eventually his heart. "I thought I made that clear before we were interrupted," she said softly. The night Theodore arrived. Hope kindled in Ethan's eyes. "You want to stay at the ranch with you," she clarified, "if the offer still stands." Ethan moved from his chair to kneel before her, taking her hands in his. Olivia, I love you. I think I've loved you since I found you in the desert, this brave, broken woman who refused to surrender. Tears filled her eyes. I love you too. I was afraid to admit it, afraid to trust it, but I'm not afraid anymore. Marry me, he said simply. Not today, not tomorrow, when you're ready. But no, that's what I want, a life with you, building something together. Joy, pure and unexpected, flooded through her. Yes, she whispered. Yes, their return to the ranch was a homecoming in the truest sense. December had brought snow to the higher elevations, blanketing the landscape in pristine white. As they crested the final ridge, the cabin came into view, smoke curling from the chimney thanks to the Wilsons, who had tended to things in their absence. It's beautiful, Olivia said, taking in the scene. Ethan smiled. It's home. They were married in April when wildflowers carpeted the desert floor. The ceremony was small. James Holloway, the Wilsons, and a few of Ethan's rancher friends gathered in the Prescott church to witness their vows. Olivia wore a simple cream dress, her hair adorned with spring blossoms. When Ethan saw her walking toward him, the love in his eyes brought tears to hers. I promise to protect you, to respect you, to love you until my dying day, Ethan vowed, his voice steady and sure. I promise to stand beside you, to trust you, to love you with all that I am, Olivia replied, meaning every word. Their life together unfolded like the desert after rain, gradually at first, then with increasing abundance. They expanded the ranch, added more cattle, planted an orchard. Ethan built a larger cabin, with a proper bedroom and a small library where Olivia could pursue her love of reading. In the winter of their first year of marriage, Olivia discovered she was with child. The news brought both joy and trepidation. Memories of a miscarriage during her marriage to Theodore haunted her, but Ethan's steady support never wavered. This child will know only love, he promised, his hand gentle on her growing belly. Never fear. Their son, Samuel James Grayson, was born on a crisp autumn day in 1878. As Olivia held him in her arms, Ethan beside her with wonder in his eyes, she marveled at how far she had come from a desperate woman fleeing into the desert with nothing to a wife, a mother, a woman who had found not just safety but joy. 2 years later, their daughter Emily Rose joined the family, completing their circle. Life was not without challenges. Drought years tested their resilience. The children's illnesses brought sleepless nights. The isolation of ranch life sometimes weighed heavily. But through it all, the foundation they had built remained solid. Each evening, after the children were asleep, Ethan and Olivia would sit together on the porch, watching the sunset paint the desert in golden hues. Do you ever regret it? Ethan asked one such evening as their 10th anniversary approached. Coming here, choosing this life? Olivia turned to him, taking in the face she had come to know better than her own, the lines etched by sun and laughter, the steadfast green eyes, the silver now threading through his hair. Never, she said with absolute certainty. Not for a single moment. And it was true. The woman who had fled into the desert with nothing had found everything she'd ever needed: safety, purpose, family, and most precious of all, a love that had healed wounds she once thought would never mend. As the first stars appeared in the darkening sky, Ethan took her hand in his. No words were needed between them now, just the quiet certainty that whatever the future held, they would face it together, as they had from the beginning. In the distance, a coyote called, a wild, haunting sound that spoke of both loneliness and freedom. Olivia smiled, leaning her head against Ethan's shoulder. Once she had been as desperate and alone as that distant cry. Now, surrounded by the life they'd built together, she was finally completely home.